Hello everybody. I don't see anybody here. So if you're on, if you can watch me, so say hello somewhere, pop a question and let me know that you're here. Otherwise, if I don't see anybody on, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk briefly about um, this Q&A. The Q&A is on how to integrate African American history and works and life into the mainstream curriculum for the homeschool teacher and for any teacher in general. The process is the same, and I would just share a little bit about that. But first, I want to talk about myself. My name is Maria Mutitu, and I am now currently living in Taiwan, and I realize that I am way ahead, and I'm 15 hours ahead, and with the time difference in the what is it called, the daylight savings time, so that is 7 o'clock even on the East Coast. So I think I might have miscalculated, and so I'll just leave a brief message here if nobody shows up. So anyway, so I am in Taiwan. I came to Taiwan from Canada, where I was doing my PhD in curriculum and instructions in the University of Victoria. And while I was there, I was also teaching in the Faculty of Education. Before that, I was in the US, where I did my master's and my undergrad in Washington State, Spokane, Washington, at Whitworth University. And before that, before I came to the US, I lived in Kenya. So I am truly a global citizen, and I understand the matters of acculturation and all the matters and problems and issues that arise from trying to teach this a diverse curriculum to all kids. So I was hoping to have a conversation about how to integrate African American work and history into the mainstream curriculum. And I will just share a little bit about what I have learned. And if whoever has an opportunity to watch this can ask questions later, and then I will respond. So first things first, as far as African American history is concerned, it is true that it is almost absent from all the mainstream curriculum, except for some tokenistic things, where people are talking about Martin Luther King, where, a little bit about the civil rights movement, all of the nature of the beginnings and the endings of that story. But as far as contributions of African American present, past, present, and all of this, that is very lacking. So all teachers, I think, should consider how to include the African American narrative into their teaching. I'm sure that this is true even homeschooling curriculum. The absence of the African American narrative is probably pretty loud even there too. So what I have found to be most effective in teaching the kids without alienating them or scaring them or making them feel angry about the system is to incorporate all of this history into the ongoing curriculum. And I'm going to share a little bit how. So first, let's just talk about the history aspect of it. So as you're teaching history, my suggestion would be that you teach an inclusive history. So if you're going to teach about African American history, make sure that it is within the greater context of American history, so the kids can see where the blocks are, where there is nothing. So we're talking about all the way back to the Puritans. Include, while you're talking about that, include the history of all of the people who were there, the First Nations or the Native Americans who were there. Use that as part of that, and not just the wars that included, or the fights that included, or even about Thanksgiving, about how they ran their world, the social advances that they had then. what their contribution to the incoming people was, how that has continued till now, how that group has been annihilated, and how they have persistently tried to hold on to their history, to their lifestyle. Talk about the Dakotas, the Nez Perce, the Idahos, all of that. Make sure that as you're talking about history, include all the contributions of those people that nobody hears about, of the nations that nobody hears about. And that is true of the African American narrative as well. As you're talking about history, insert where that came in and the reason that the African Americans came in and how that went and the contributions that happened by the African Americans during slavery. There were there were a few writers, there were a few people who, there were a few renegades that were African Americans, there were a few by then they were just slaves, but there was a lot of contribution by people from Africa to hear the musical contribution, the religious contribution, the scientific. There was a few, the brooms and many things that the slaves brought to their slave masters that were considered as contributions. Share the abolitionist movement and where we are now with all of that. Before we talk about Martin Luther, it seems when everybody is talking about African American, they're only talking about the liberation aspect of it. But there's so much contribution. I mean, the first, our president is African American, literally. Like his parents are from Kenya, and his dad is from Kenya. His mom is from the U.S. He's multicultural. He's traveled around the world, and so many contributions of African Americans have not been inserted into the history. And I feel that it is the role of teachers to start plugging those things in as timepieces. If you're talking, when you work on the literature work, make sure to include literature from African American background, all the way back to Whitley, all the way back to slavery. So the literature that came out of that, there was literature all the way to the Harlem time, to the Harlem Renaissance, all the way to what we have now, and everything. So make sure that you have, you and your children research all of this, go to the museum. When it comes to teaching math, use information that is representative of the African American culture. Or Africa in general, right? Like when you're talking about geometry, make sure you include the Egyptian connection to geometry and all other sciences that are coming from Africa, chemistry coming from, the early civilizations. So include that global connection, and that will make many students realize, oh, wait a minute. I'm not just Martin Luther King and slavery. That's not all I am. And the civil rights movement, that's not all we are. There's so much information that the homeschooling mom can assist the child in researching. So integrate it in the mainstream curriculum. When you're doing, if you're doing social studies, do the same thing. Contributions from people in your area, the native people in your area that you're living, all the African Americans that were there when the African Americans that created the community that you are in, and I'm sure there is a history there. Look it up, look at the museums, look at the newspapers. If you're talking about economics, go back and look at the first millionaires, first extremely wealthy African American, and it goes all the way back to the 1800s that all of this happened. Some people were free slaves, some people they managed to acquire a lot of wealth at a time when most African Americans were considered slaves or freed slaves and had no rights. So share all of this history of resistance, history of contribution to society, because I think this is the part where a mainstream media has failed, is to show the contributions of African Americans and all all the othered people, including women, into the mainstream curriculum, and they keep pushing certain information, and the teachers and the students, only have so much time. There is no time to dig through and teach the real story. And to be honest, most teachers don't even know the story. They don't know that there's a story outside of the mainstream curriculum, and they don't look for it unless it touches them personally. So I think many for the homeschool teacher is a great opportunity to insert the African American contributions into all the subjects you're teaching. So if you're doing a biology, if you're working on biology, why not use the experiments from Africa? Use examples of what has happened in Africa, the cures that have, and they're there, that have happened in Africa. The supporters that have supported a lot of advances from especially West Africa, like, for example, Maya Angelou lived in West Africa for a long time, and there's a story that goes with that. There's a reason that goes with that. There's a lot of literature that came out of that, and so the parent can use all of this information. So one of the questions that one of the parents asked was, how do you not make the student angry teaching it? And I think teaching the truth of the story. Let the kids know the full story. And let the kids see that African Americans were resilient. They came up with ways to get out of where they were. And here we are today with with a Black president of the United States under all the circumstances. Somebody else asked, how do you address the ongoing police brutality? And I think you need to address that. You need to address that as it is. There are still people out there who feel a certain way about Black people. They can't, because all the KKK and all the white supremacy is for the most part considered illegal. So they go into the forces and voila, here we are. Not all of them, not everybody in the force is like that, but people who feel very strongly about some of these things go into the jobs that would allow them to follow through on these feelings, and that's a fact. However, things are not the way they used to be. Make sure that your kids understand that they have control over their life. They're not like where the history. They have control over their life. They have control over what they want to learn. They have control over how they want to live for the most part. So make sure that you impart in the children that you're working with the importance of understanding that they're not just Black men. They're up there, American, they're citizens of the United States, and every right that an American has, they have. There are crazy people there doing whatever they want to do, but the law is going to come, and the law is changing, and the law has changed. There's just a little bit more to go, but we're going to get there, and we are getting there. So also, teach them about civics, teach them about civics, good citizenship. Obama became who he became who he is now because he desired strongly to help his people, right? And so he understood what was going on, and that motivated him to be who he is today. So it's not horrible, then media, of course, talk, and this is important, share with your kids about the responsibility of the media and the stories they choose to share and why they choose to share. This is, this is a fantastic time to talk about how the media can influence people and talk to them about how to counteract media messages. Instead of many parents would turn off the TV or take some things away so the kids don't see the media. And I think that's fair. But for the most part, I wish that many parents would speak about this as a demonstration of responsible citizenship. So as far as your people are concerned, if you were the newscaster, if you were the Roots or all other representative media, what would you choose to share and why? Share with your children why media chooses sensationalism because it sells, and empower them that way, because when people see things in the news, they think that's it. If it's in the news or if it's been written, that's the truth. So you have the opportunity, the fantastic opportunity that many teachers don't have, in that you can go into places that a teacher cannot go, and you can discuss media issues, and how they represent Black people, and how does that measure up with the Black people, right? Because there are many Black people who've never been in the ghetto, many Black people who have never had any interactions with the police. All of this is true, and your children may know these people, and you can say, and you can discuss, why is this not being represented, and that when you share this information, it does a few things. It empowers the student. It empowers the student to start critically thinking about their world. And eventually this could be a pain for you, because they're going to start questioning you, but you want them to question that and start looking at all the different strings that are tied to each story. And when you look at, and if your kids are old enough to see, for example, all the police brutality, discuss it in the context of media, sensationalism, portrayal of Black youth, portrayal of Black people, the lack of representation. Discuss all of this and have them start to think about different ways to represent Black people. And, these are the future leaders. So, and they could even do a study. They can, you can start asking them to read to check into the government, how the government in your city operates, who is the majority holder, what are they supporting, ask your children, what do you think about the policies of our governor, our mayor, our this, when the next time election comes, tell them to start thinking about these things, because it empowers them to see that they're not like sitting ducks just waiting for some police to make the wrong move and the police will shoot them, because I think a lot of Black kids now that I have been talking to all night are beginning to feel like sitting ducks, or like there's nothing they can do. But I think the child needs to understand that they really do have all the power. They need to learn how to use it responsibly, as contributing members of society. They need to see examples of people like them, Black people from a long time ago, who started to do with the Nat Turner, back Nat Turner, take it back there and bring it all the way up to Martin Luther, bring it all the way back to all the people and all the children and everybody we have now, and how the use of Twitter and Facebook and all of this has helped bring light to a lot of these issues very quickly and very fast. So I think this would be helpful. So since I don't have any questions, I'm going to, I think, stop here. So it's about 20 minutes chat. And if you have the chance to look at this and listen to this, you can go ahead and type me some questions, and I will respond to you. Okay, so just to recap, remember to teach the African American history in the context of the larger history, so your students can see how things happened, when things began to change, who began to change them, who contributed. Also, as you're teaching history and or the humanity type of subjects, the geography, social studies, all of that, include all the othered populations. So your children can begin to see how mainstream works. They choose, mainstream chooses a story and they're aligned with that. But there are so many other places and spaces that people are contributing to society. People are have been resilient and have come through difficulty. So share that with your children. As much as possible, include aspects of First Nation, African American history, Native American history, other histories and resources in all the work, in all the subjects that you're talking about, so the kids can see how much information there is about their world that they just don't know, or that is just not being taught. And it's going to become natural for them to look at material and resources differently. It's going to make them start asking, I wonder who else contributed to this. So you want to include that. And above all else, make sure to mention to them all that no matter what anybody says, they are Americans and they're protected by the umbrella of the Constitution. No matter what anybody thinks, they are protected. They have power. They have more power than they think, and they can contribute to society in any way they wish to without fear. Because if you're supporting society, if you're choosing a space in society to contribute, somebody somewhere is going to pay attention and you're going to feel useful. So I hope this is helpful to somebody, and maybe next time we'll choose a time that works better for everybody. So bye-bye and talk soon.